Alright guys, so today we're going to be working on a 91 Honda Accord. We're going to be replacing the hub assembly, the rotors, and the ball joints, just using basic tools at home. You don't need to take this to a shop to get it worked on. You can do this yourself, save time and money. Even if you had to go and buy some of the tools to do this job, it's still going to be cost effective. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so here I'm using my impact wrench. I'm going to take off the 4 bolts in the back because it's a lot easier to just go ahead and do it this way. You can just put the knuckle arm in a vise and then try to break them off with a ratchet, but I had the impact wrench handy, so I just went ahead and used it. Alright, so when it comes to removing the hub, you don't need anything special. All you need is some bolts to put in here. Take the original bolt, run down to your hardware store, find another bolt. It doesn't have to be the exact thread, size, or length, but these are what I picked up because they got a strong stock on them, if that's what you want to call it. They're a stronger bolt. Doesn't matter if it's fine thread, regular thread, doesn't matter. We're not worried about the thread because we're going to be beating this out. You don't need a press to do this, and this is very simple. Take your bolt, twist it down in there. Go ahead and get your ratchet. Tighten this down inside. Make sure it's good and snug. Get a big socket. Okay, and this is I believe it's a 36 millimeter, and yep, it is a 36 millimeter. It's what I use for my axle nuts. I'm going to place that right in the middle. Now you're going to pound all 4 of these and the middle. You don't need a press to do this. So we're going to start pounding all 4 bolts and the middle. My suggestion is tap the middle a few times and then go from there. Now, it's going to take a few whacks to do it. I don't have this tight enough, so I'm going to readjust it. But I can already see that it's moving just fine, just from those few taps. So I'm going to readjust this, and we'll continue. Now, an easy way to tell if it's moving or not, you'll notice a little ridge over here on this side. You'll notice that it's sticking up above that. You'll be able to see that it's moved down. And you'll be able to look around here and see that it's moving, in which case this one is. So I'm going to give it a few more whacks here in the middle. And that's just to help make sure it stays straight as you're pounding it out, because that'll make it a lot easier to come out. And just like that, it's already out. Now we're just going to remove all 4 of these bolts, and I'll show you how to take the rotor off the hub assembly. Alright, now before we go any further, I'm going to clean up the inside of this right here. Just going to take some sandpaper. Alright, now we're going to take a 14 millimeter socket. I recommend getting a ratchet. If you don't have an air gun, get a ratchet that extends just like this one. So you got some extra leverage, or get a pipe. stick on the end of what you have. We're going to break these guys loose. And the only reason why we're doing this is so we can get the bolts themselves out, because we're going to reuse the bolts. I've never had an issue with these bolts before ever breaking or having an issue with them, so we're just going to reuse them. Otherwise, if you want to replace the bolts, don't even worry about this step, because this is the rotor and here's your hub assembly. They bolt together on these Honda Accords, these 90 through 93. They bolt together, become one piece, so you can't just simply take off the rotor and to replace it. All right. All right, so we've got our brand new rotor. We've got ourselves a brand new hub assembly. And the reason why I like replacing the whole hub assembly, again, you don't have to press this bearing out. You don't have to replace it. You just take the whole thing, replace it, and you get new studs. I find that to be much easier. And while you're at it, normally, if you're going to need a new hub, a new bearing, probably just go ahead and replace the whole hub. Then you know everything's good on it. And go ahead and replace your rotors. You've already got it that far apart. Just go ahead and do it. It's not that expensive on these old cars. So now we're going to assemble this back together. If you have a vise, it's the best thing to use. Open your vise up all the way. Make sure that the bottom of your hub here will sit down in there. Now, remember the way this goes together. You got your rotor. This slides right back on top. Line your bolt holes back up. Go ahead and tighten it down. So we'll take our 4 bolts. I always, instead of doing around in a circle, I always recommend put one on one side and go to the far side. Put the next one in, then vice versa. Instead of going around in a circle, that makes sure everything is lined up correctly. Go ratchet. Go ahead and get these snug. Alright, now once we get this back on the knuckle arm, we'll go ahead and start over. Alright, so now we're going to work on removing the ball joint. Again, you don't need any special tools. All you'll need is really big C-clamp and the right size sockets and the hammer. First thing you got to do is remove this clip right here. So, I'm going to take that out, get that out. We're going to tap it from this end right out. Then we'll press the new one in. Now, as we can see here, this ball joint is completely shot, and it's definitely junk. Alright, now this is the fun part, but it's still pretty easy. Take some grease. We'll just go ahead and run it around the inside here. Give it a little lubrication. Give it something to help make it slide in. Again, we're going to be putting this in without a press. And the only way that you're going to know that it's in all the way is whenever the snap ring fits back in there. If it's not in far enough, snap ring won't go on. So it's pretty hard to mess this up. What I do, go ahead and take this, slide it in there. Give it a little bit of a tap. I take this big socket right here, put it on the back side. Take this socket, put it right back on the front side. I can find out it's the perfect size for this. I actually realized this the other day when I was doing the other side. So what you're going to need is a really big C-clamp. Alright, now you see, sliding in just fine. It's a good idea, which just popped off, but it's a good idea to go back, check all the way around here. Make sure this is not obstructing anything and nothing's getting in the way, which it's not. So let's go ahead, take this, put it all back in place. All right, now we've got it pressed in all the way. We'll give it another quick push. Yep, and it's in there. So we'll back all this off. Come back here. I can feel the ridge on the back side. That snap ring will fit right in. So we know that it's in the right position. And everything's good. So now we'll go ahead and put that snap ring back on, and then we will reinstall the hub with the rotor on it. Alright, so I went ahead, took some grease, ran it around the inside of the knuckle arm here, and around the hub itself, where it's going to be sliding in at. Now you'll notice the 4 bolt holes, they are not matching. So you got 2 wide ones and 2 ones that are closer together. So that pretty much narrows it down when you go to put this back on, which direction it goes back on. And again, we're not using anything special here. Just going to rock it back and forth a little, and it'll snug itself back in. Alright, now after you've got your bolts in with the Loctite, go ahead and tighten them down finger tight. Tight as you can get them with your finger. You know, sometimes they'll kind of stop in there and you really can't get them with your finger, so that's alright. As long as you get them started, that's what matters. Go ahead and take our socket, stick back on here, and that'll help twist them down. Now we can obviously tell at this point the hub is not in there all the way. Give it about 5 cranks on each side, going side to side, back and forth. Don't start on one side, go directly over, and keep going. We don't want to bind it up. Now as you're tightening the bolts side to side, you'll notice that the other sides will start to lift up. So you'll have to get them snug back down and then continue on with your 5 cranks per bolt, and then just repeat the process until the hub completely sucks itself in. Keep an eye on the ridge right here. Make sure that this side eventually comes up inside of that lip. Bam. There we have it, guys. And you'll be able to feel that ridge here in the back. And that's how you know it's up all the way. You can take a look on the inside, make sure it looks level, going all the way across. And before we slide this back on, we're going to take some grease, run it up here on the inside. That way when the axle goes in, it'll slide in real good. If you ever had to take this back apart, it'll make taking the axle off a lot easier. Alright guys, so we've gotten the hub assembly taken off. We took off the bolts from the hub and the rotors to reuse those on the new set of hubs and rotors, and we've replaced the ball joint. The only special tools that I used was the snap ring pliers. You can pick those up pretty much at any hardware store, AutoZone, O'Reilly's, or even Walmart, Harbor Freight, lots of places. You're going to need those big sockets to help press in your new ball joints, a good size hammer to pound out the hubs with, and the bolts, as well as the ball joint itself. Other than that, I didn't use anything special other than the impact I used at one time to take off those 4 bolts in the back because they come with Loctite on them from the factory. The front bolts that connect to the rotors, they do not have Loctite on them from the factory. They just screw in and they will hold just fine. You don't need to worry about putting Loctite back on those bolts, but the ones on the back side, I highly recommend putting Loctite back on. All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed this. Simple, easy process to do. Anybody can do this in their garage or in their front yard, for that matter. Um, all you need is some bolts to stick down in the bolt holes for your hub assembly, a big socket, big hammer, pound those out. You don't need a fancy press to take those out. If your bearings go out, just replace the whole entire hub assembly. Uh, Much easier, because if you have to replace the bearing itself, chances are you won't have the press to do it. You'll have to take it to a shop. They'll have to replace it there, and it's just easier to replace the whole entire hub assembly. And in the long run, it's cost effective. To do both sides, it was not that expensive. I will put a link in the description from where I ordered the parts from. Ratchets, sockets, hammer, bolts. That's all you need to do this job. If you guys like the video, please give it a thumbs up. Comment down below. If you're new, please subscribe. I'm going to be getting some more videos coming along pretty soon. Take a break for a while. Been busy with other things, and the world's been going crazy, but that's a whole nother matter. I've been fixing things. I just haven't had time to make videos on them because I'm a busy guy, and when things break, I have to get it done quickly. Other things I can take care of whenever I get to it, and then I have time to make a video on it. So I plan on having more to come, but this was for a 90 through 93 Honda Accord. Again, please hit that like button and subscribe. I will see you guys next time. Thanks.